The Carters' blue-gray bungalow sat peacefully on a quiet street in Portland. The early December frost shimmered on the rooftops, and a light mist floated above the lawns. Inside, the morning sun filtered through white curtains, casting soft stripes across the wooden floor. Rachel stood at the kitchen sink, her hands gently drying a mug, her rounded stomach pressing against the counter. 8 months pregnant, she still found herself surprised when her reflection showed the clear silhouette of motherhood. This baby, their baby, was not planned, not after 3 miscarriages in 5 years and a doctor's gentle warning that the chances were slim. But here she was, the miracle child growing stronger each day. "Mom, you have to see what I built," shouted Max from the sunroom. Her 10-year-old son's voice rang with excitement. Rachel waddled in, smiling at her son, who stood proudly next to a tall Lego skyscraper complete with a tiny rooftop garden. "It's amazing," she said, crouching carefully to see the details. "It even has little people working inside." Max grinned. He had always had a knack for building things, whether with blocks, magnets, or puzzles. His teachers often remarked on his sharp mind, though sometimes he retreated into quiet spells that worried her. Since the pregnancy, he had grown more clingy, always checking that she was okay. "Is Dad coming to my recital tonight?" he asked suddenly. Rachel paused. "He said he'd try. He's still in Seattle for work, but maybe he'll make it." Max didn't look convinced. He always says he'll try. Rachel sighed. Jason had been working longer hours since the promotion, traveling frequently to pitch new architectural projects. While she didn't doubt his love, something about his recent behavior felt distant, distracted. Even when he was home, he was glued to his phone, replying to messages with a tense expression. Later that afternoon, Rachel packed Max's things for the school performance and made a quick dinner. Her back ached more than usual, and she sat down, holding her belly and talking softly to her unborn daughter. They had already picked the name Clara, after Rachel's grandmother. Max performed his part in the school holiday concert beautifully. His solo on the xylophone earned a burst of applause, and Rachel, seated near the front, clapped until her hands stung. Jason didn't make it. That night, Rachel sat on the couch, tired and emotionally spent. When Jason called, she let it ring twice before answering. "I'm sorry," he said before she could speak. "The client meeting ran late, and then the flight was delayed. I'll be home tomorrow morning." "It's fine," she said. "Max did great. He missed you." There was silence on the other end. Then, "I miss both of you. I really do." She wanted to believe him, but something in his voice didn't sit right. The next morning, Jason returned with a bag of pastries and a bouquet of pale yellow tulips. He kissed her cheek, rubbed her belly, and apologized again for missing the recital. Rachel accepted the apology but didn't press further. Max stayed quiet around his father. Over the next few days, the air grew colder and Rachel became increasingly tired. On a Wednesday night, as she sat reading on the couch, she felt a sudden, sharp pain. Her book dropped to the floor. "Jason," she called. He rushed in from the study, eyes wide. "I think it's happening. It's early." They scrambled to pack the remaining hospital items. Jason offered to call her sister Mia to stay with Max, but Rachel shook her head. "Mia's out of town. Can you please just take Max to Emma's house across the street?" He nodded, grabbing Max's overnight bag and hurrying across the street. By the time they reached the hospital, Rachel was in active labor. She gripped Jason's hand tightly through every contraction, but she couldn't help but notice his occasional glances at his phone. After hours of pain and sweat and tears, Clara entered the world, a small, strong-voiced bundle with eyes that mirrored her mother's. Jason cut the cord, kissed Rachel's forehead, and whispered, "You were amazing." The next day, as Rachel rested with Clara in the bassinet beside her, she stared at the hospital ceiling, letting the hum of the room fill the silence. She was sore, exhausted, but deeply grateful. A knock on the door made her sit up. Jason entered, holding his phone, looking unusually pale. "Hey," he said, forcing a smile. "What's wrong?" she asked immediately. He shook his head. "Nothing, just work stuff." Rachel studied him. "Jason, tell me the truth." His shoulders slumped, and he looked away. "There's something I need to confess." Her heart stopped for a moment. "What?" "There's someone I've been texting, just texting. It started a few months ago. A woman I met through work. I never crossed that line, but I think it was emotional. And I stopped, I swear. I stopped when I realized what I was risking." Rachel said nothing. Her throat tightened, and for a long while, the only sound in the room was Clara's soft breathing. After what felt like a full hour, Rachel finally spoke. "I don't know what this means yet, but I know you broke something." Tears felt Jason's eyes. "I know. I want to fix it. I want to be better for you, for Max, for Clara." Rachel nodded slowly. "Then start now. Not with words, with actions." He reached out to touch Clara's tiny fingers, and Rachel watched him, cautious, unsure, but knowing that healing wouldn't be instant. Still, something about her daughter's small heartbeat gave her strength. A new chapter had begun. One filled with pain, yes, but also with possibility. The quiet stillness of room 206 was broken only by the soft ticking of the wall clock and the gentle coos of a newborn baby. Anna Reynolds rested her head against the pillow, her body aching and weak after the birth of her second child, a boy she had named Eli. The morning light streamed through the blinds, casting golden lines across the hospital sheets. She stirred slightly as the door opened. A nurse entered, tall, poised, with a dark blonde ponytail tucked neatly under her cap. Her name tag read Melissa. "Good morning, Mrs. Reynolds," she said with a warm, professional smile. "How are you feeling today? Has the nausea improved?" Anna blinked, trying to focus. Her head still felt clouded. "A little," she mumbled, "still kind of dizzy." Melissa checked her vitals swiftly. "Your blood pressure's a bit low. I'll update the chart. The doctor's prescribed another mild sedative for pain management," she added, holding up a small pill. "Please take this with some water." Anna hesitated but took the pill. As Melissa noted something in the file, she cast a brief glance toward Anna's husband, Ethan, who stood by the window silently. Their eyes met for half a second. Then Ethan looked away. Melissa offered another faint smile. "If you need anything, I'll be just down the hall." Ethan excused himself moments later, saying he needed to make a work call. Anna watched him leave, her stomach tightening, not from the incision, but from something deeper. She drifted into a heavy, unnatural sleep. When she finally awoke, 4 hours had passed. A different nurse was now in the room, feeding baby Eli with a bottle. "You're awake," the nurse said. "Your little one was fussing, so I fed him a bit." Anna tried to sit up, her body trembling slightly. "What time is it?" "Almost 1 p.m., the nurse replied. "You were out for a while." "That pill they gave me, it was too strong." The nurse looked at the chart. "Melissa noted that. We'll lower the dosage." That afternoon, Anna's best friend Jenny arrived, holding Anna's 9-year-old daughter Emily by the hand. Emily's eyes lit up when she saw her baby brother. "He's so tiny," she whispered in awe. Anna smiled, stroking her daughter's dark curls. "He is, but he'll grow, just like you did." Jenny pulled up a chair, observing Anna carefully. "You look pale. Are you okay?" Anna hesitated. "I don't know. I've been feeling strange, too sleepy. And the nurse, Melissa, she's a little too familiar. She even knew Emily's name, and I never mentioned it." Jenny's expression changed subtly. "That's odd." Just then, Melissa returned, her cheerfulness almost exaggerated. "And you must be Emily. Your mom told me so much about you." Emily looked uncomfortable and leaned closer to Anna. When Melissa left after giving another pill, Anna leaned toward Jenny. "Something's not right. Emily doesn't know her either." Jenny agreed. "Keep your eyes open, Anna, just in case." That evening, Emily came back from the hospital hallway looking pale. Once Jenny stepped out to grab coffee, the little girl whispered, "Mom, I didn't want to scare you, but I saw that nurse before." Anna turned sharply. "Where?" "2 weeks ago. Daddy took me to get hot chocolate after school. We sat outside, and I saw him talking to her in a car. They were sitting really close." Anna's mouth went dry. "Are you sure?" Emily nodded slowly. "She had the same watch, and her voice is the same." Anna was stunned. That night, she barely slept. Every time Ethan came and went, she watched him more closely. The next morning, Anna requested to speak with the head nurse. She quietly asked for Melissa to be reassigned, citing privacy and discomfort. The head nurse, surprised, agreed to the request without question. Later, the attending doctor visited and said they wanted to run another blood panel due to Anna's continuing fatigue and a slight fever spike. "We just want to be cautious," he said. "We'll check the medication levels too." After he left, Anna took a deep breath and picked up her phone. She called Ethan. He answered on the third ring. "Hey, everything okay?" "I was just wondering if you could bring Emily when you visit today." He hesitated. Today's complicated. I've got a meeting at 4. "You said you weren't working today," she said quietly. A pause. "Something came up," he replied. "Ethan, have you been seeing someone else?" A silence fell. When he finally spoke, his voice was lower. "No, of course not." Anna closed her eyes, her fingers gripping the sheets. "Then who is Melissa? Why was she at our daughter's school? Why did she know Emily's name?" More silence. A click. He ended the call. Anna sat still for a long time. Her chest ached, not from the surgery, but from betrayal. She looked over at little Eli, sleeping peacefully in the bassinet. She knew one thing for certain now. Something was wrong, and she would find out what it was. Under the bed, Deborah's heart raced so fiercely she thought it might give her away. Her mind reeled from Rachel's confession, so it had been intentional. Every dizzy spell, every wave of nausea, and this morning's antibiotic, that was no infection treatment. Beside her, Lily held tightly onto her mother's arm, her small fingers trembling. Thomas stirred slightly, releasing a tiny sigh that seemed to echo in the stillness. Above them, the tension between Michael and Rachel reached a boiling point. "Put it down, Rachel," Michael said, voice stern but low. "You've already gone too far." Rachel's laugh was soft and bitter. "Don't pretend to be righteous now. You encouraged this. You came to me night after night, whispering about how unhappy you were, how trapped you felt." "I never wanted her dead," Michael snapped, taking a step back. "You manipulated everything." There was a brief, dangerous silence. Then Rachel's voice, now laced with menace. "Do you know what happens when a postpartum patient suddenly goes into cardiac arrest? They call it a tragedy. No one questions it." Deborah reached for the call button on her wrist with trembling fingers. Her thumb hovered over it. She couldn't afford a mistake. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed in the room. It sounded like something metallic had fallen. "Rachel!" Michael shouted. Then a scuffle. From beneath the bed, Deborah and Lily saw shoes shuffle violently. There was the distinct thud of someone hitting the ground. Thomas whimpered softly. Deborah placed a gentle hand on his chest, calming him. "Give it to me," Michael growled. A struggle. Then, beep, beep, beep. Deborah had pressed the emergency nurse call. Moments later, the door burst open. "Security," a voice barked. "Step back." Multiple feet stormed in. Deborah stayed still until a familiar female voice called out, "Mrs. Wilson?" Slowly, painfully, Deborah inched her way out from under the bed, still holding Thomas. Lily followed, her eyes wide with disbelief. A nurse she recognized, not Rachel, helped her up. 2 security guards were pinning Rachel to the floor. Her hair was disheveled, the syringe lying empty nearby. Michael stood to the side, his lips split and blood on his shirt. He looked stunned, broken. Deborah didn't speak. She held Thomas tightly, tears streaming down her cheeks. Lily wrapped both arms around her mother's waist, whispering, "I was so scared." "I know, baby," Deborah whispered, kissing her hair. "But you were brave. You saved us." 2 days later, the hospital had transferred Deborah to a private recovery suite, away from the trauma of room 306. Rachel had been arrested on charges of attempted murder and medical malpractice. She had faked her credentials, never officially assigned to Deborah's case. The real nurse Rachel had gone on leave 2 weeks ago. No one had double-checked. Michael had confessed everything: his emotional affair with Rachel, his guilt, his confusion, his fear. Deborah listened silently, her face unreadable. "I never meant for it to go this far," he said, tears welling in his eyes. "I was weak. I thought I wanted something different. But the moment I saw Thomas, I knew I wanted this, our family." Deborah looked at him long and hard. "Wanting something isn't enough, Michael. You chose wrong, and that almost killed me." He nodded. "I know. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want to make it right, however I can." A week later, Deborah was discharged with her children and taken home by Carol. Michael moved out temporarily, at Deborah's request. But she didn't close the door entirely. Healing would take time, trust even more. As she stood in the nursery watching Lily play gently with Thomas, Deborah felt a quiet strength return to her. She had almost lost everything, but she hadn't. She survived. They all did. And from now on, no one would ever silence her intuition again. The early morning sun filtered through the curtains of a modest countryside hospital room. Julia Monroe stirred slowly, her newborn daughter Ava resting beside her in the clear bassinet. Her body ached, her heart even more. The birth had been early, stressful, and not just because of complications. Something had been off for weeks. She had sensed it deep in her bones. And now that nagging intuition had transformed into silent dread. A soft knock on the door. "Good morning, Mrs. Monroe," came a cheerful voice. Nurse Elena, tall and neat in a pale blue uniform, entered with a tray of breakfast and a small paper cup containing a pill. "This is a vitamin supplement prescribed by Dr. Harris," she said with a smile. Julia sat up slowly. "That's strange. Dr. Harris didn't mention it this morning." Elena didn't flinch. "It was added to your chart just after rounds. I'll check back soon." She left too quickly. Julia didn't take the pill. Instead, she slipped it into a napkin and tucked it beneath the tray. Her instincts had never failed her before, and they screamed that something was deeply wrong. That afternoon, her 11-year-old son Noah arrived with Julia's sister Maggie. Noah, typically energetic and talkative, seemed quiet, withdrawn. "Are you okay, honey?" Julia asked. Noah hesitated. "I saw Dad last night, but he wasn't alone." Julia's breath caught. "He was in the hospital parking lot, talking to that nurse, the one who gave you the pill?" Julia's stomach twisted. What were they doing? "They were arguing, then hugging. I stayed in the car. They didn't see me." Maggie overheard. "You think the nurse, Elena, is involved with Jake?" Julia didn't answer, but her silence said everything. That night, Julia couldn't sleep. She kept replaying everything. Jake's sudden disinterest in preparing for the baby, his frequent work trips, the strange tension every time he visited her in the hospital. Around midnight, she pressed her call button. When a different nurse arrived, Julia asked to review her medication list. The nurse hesitated, but obliged. There was no vitamin supplement listed for the afternoon. The blood drained from Julia's face. The next day, Elena didn't appear. Jake did. He looked tired, unshaven, trying to smile. "How's my girl doing?" Julia didn't answer. She reached into the side drawer and placed the napkin on the tray between them. When he opened it and saw the untouched pill, his face went pale. "I know everything," she whispered. Jake backed away. "You don't understand. I didn't want this. She became obsessed. I tried to end it. She started threatening you." "And you said nothing?" Julia's voice cracked. Just then, a scream echoed from the hallway. It was Elena. "Where is she? You told me she'd be gone by now." Jake rushed to the door just as a security officer and 2 nurses grabbed Elena, who was hysterical, trying to shove past them. Julia froze. Noah, who had been quietly reading in the corner, ran to his mother's side and hugged her tightly. "I won't let anything happen to you, Mom." 2 months later, the police investigation revealed that Elena was operating under a stolen identity. She had been institutionalized before for obsessive delusions and had become fixated on Jake after a short-lived affair. The pill Julia saved tested positive for a dangerous sedative, one that, mixed with postpartum fatigue, could have stopped her heart. Jake lost his parental rights. Julia was granted sole custody. And though forgiveness didn't come easily, she had learned how to rebuild from the ground up. Julia moved with Noah and baby Ava to a quiet coastal town in Oregon. A small house, nothing fancy, but filled with light. The local librarian, Maggie's friend, offered her a part-time job running children's reading sessions. Noah began therapy and slowly found joy again. He joined a junior robotics club and made 2 close friends. Ava, now giggling and grabbing at everything, was healthy, strong. Sometimes, Julia would sit on the back porch holding Ava while Noah chased butterflies in the garden. The trauma lingered, yes, but sowed strength and the unshakable will to protect. "Mom," Noah called one evening, his voice bright, "there's a rainbow." Julia stepped outside with Ava in her arms and smiled. A wide, vivid rainbow stretched across the sky, touching the ocean. It felt like a sign that even after the darkest storms, there was light.